Hi, I'm David Fetter, Executive Editor Technical for Prepared Foods Network. Welcome to a Prepared Foods special presentation on culinary trends in new product development. Our guest today is Professor Hinnerk Von Bargen of the Culinary Institute of America, the other CIA, in San Antonio, and he's a regular contributor to Prepared Foods and a good buddy too. Gotta say it. Hi,
Indeed.
Hinnerk. Thanks for coming back. It's always great having you join us. Before you jump in, for those in the audience who haven't met Hinnerk, in addition to being a Culinary Institute professor, he's plied his expertise as a chef across several continents, and he is especially well versed in the street food traditions of the many countries he's worked and traveled in. Having been immersed in the Tex-Mex culinary scene of San Antonio for the past, Hinnerk, decade and a half,
Oh,
more,
yeah, 16 years now. It's been a
16 years.
while.
Yep,
16
he and his
years, yeah.
wife Ming own and operate 3 Asian restaurants in that melting pot of a city. So, welcome, Hinnerk.
Thank you for having me. You're right. San Antonio truly is a melting pot. It's things are really happening here. I'm very happy to be here.
It's a great nexus because two of the big trends in food these days, I would say would be the grab and go snacks and meals to serve the fast paced, burning the candle at both ends society that we
Yep.
live in. And then the continued consumer interest in and craving for the enticing global and ethnic cuisines. That's
Yes.
why you are just the guy to tell us about how those two merge best. And
Oh
I'm
yeah,
talking,
I agree. I mean, this whole grab and go concept, which has been talked about for many years now, continues to be popular not only on a street food level. You find it in retail now, even in food service operations. In my wife's restaurant, grab and go continues to be a growing aspect of the people. And uh, the what more and more people pick up on now is the more healthy aspect of some of the call them international food. Traditionally, they are often more plant-based, more healthy, and on multiple levels. When it comes to quick service options, it's the hurried, health-conscious customers who is really looking for all these places. Perhaps one thing is interesting: the military is really interested in this, and
oh,
we often don't think
it
about
makes
this.
sense.
Well, yeah, I've been working with the military for many years. Well, the CIA historically worked with the military for since its opening. I mean, if you think about the CIA was founded as an idea to provide educational opportunities for returning GIs after World War II. So
I
historically,
did not know
that was
that.
the when we were founded as the New Haven Restaurant School in Connecticut, and so that was
Um,
many returning GIs after World War II. So historically, we've always worked with the military, a lot of classes, and a couple of years ago, actually more than at least a decade or more ago, there was a growing awareness. Hey, we have to provide more healthy food. Now, the logistic with the military is another whole another story. It's a whole another level. And a year or two before the pandemic, they launched an initiative, what they would call Go for Green. And there's a Go for Green.
uh,
So at the beginning, I was not really part of it, but many of us would actually travel worldwide to Air Force bases, Army bases, not just one branch, actually, all branches are
hmm,
interested in this to see, okay, what can be done on the basis. We can come up with the craziest ideas here at the CA, what can be done, but it needs to be also logistically possible. So um,
right.
our nutritionist and from our consulting department, they were traveling and visiting bases all over the world to see what can be done. And right now, the military is getting more and more serious about this, and they're looking for, yeah, healthy grab and go snacks and meals for the troops.
Walk us through some of the examples of what's trending in general these days in that area of handheld snack and meal and grab and go, and how product developers can up their game in handheld
Hmm.
foods.
Yeah, I have to say one of my favorites is the Vietnamese summer roll, which
Uh,
traditionally is a rice noodle, a rice vermicelli wrapped with vegetables, commonly shrimp in there, in a rice paper. And
mhm.
what I've seen, I don't know, quite a few years ago, that whole grain rice paper is now available. Hasn't
Uh,
gained that much traction, but it's certainly coming up. So we can, what's happening there now to reduce the amount of noodles to go a little more carb friendly, increase the amount of vegetable, stick with the lean
Mm.
protein, which is have inherently always been in there. The simple poached pork loin, poached shrimp, and basically sexify the whole thing with some interesting dressings to make it a good customer appeal. Going down the similar path, think about lettuce wraps. Other leafy vegetables
Right.
are phenomenal wrappers. So lettuce wraps are nothing really that new anymore. Um, Blanched collards, which inherently collard greens are kind of a little hard to eat, but if you give them a quick blanch, they make for some phenomenal, very stable wrappers. Lettuce leaves tend to fall apart very easily.
Right.
Swiss chard leaves, especially when we talk about ruby chard or rainbow chard with the different colored stems, if we leave some of the stem in there,
Ah.
make for a very, very, very attractive wrapper. And nori seaweed sheets have become very, very popular as wrappers. And tofu skin is gaining traction now. Tofu skin, for those among us who are not so sure what this is, it's not actually tofu skin. It's the skin which develops when soy milk is brought to a boil. This skin is, yeah, basically skimmed off the soy milk and then dried. It's available in stores. It can be soaked and then used like a spring roll wrapper. So
Hmm.
these are very sturdy handhelds, especially for grab and go ideas. A cool idea to
Hey.
bring in some vegetarian protein.
Right. Well,
Top,
and the chard
you go ahead.
leaves, those will collard leaves, like you said, they can be a bit tough, although, like you said, blanching will take care of them. But the chard leaves will, blanch. They'll be soft enough to be easily chewed, and yet firm enough to hold that in place. Like you said, better
Yes.
than, say lettuce. And also, it kind of would remind me of a giant Asian style Greek dolma with chard
Yeah,
instead
yep,
of grape
exactly,
leaves.
exactly. And that's
Yeah,
that's the point of handhelds. I mean,
yeah.
handhelds need to be stable enough. You can hold them with one hand while you hold the plate or the bowl and you're somewhere on the run. It cannot be something which is falling apart after one bite.
While we're on the Asian theme, what are some other popular Asian treats that you see trending?
Other popular tricks would be the Asian bao. The word bao has really made its way into the consciousness of the American consumer. I remember when I
Mm.
first came to the US, they were just generalized as dumplings.
Yeah.
So in these days, the word bao has become very, very popular. And there's so many different baos. One of my favorite ones, and also one of the main sellers in my wife's restaurant, would be the Taiwanese guabao. And the
Mm.
guabao is just basically shape-wise similar to what in the US we might know as a Parker House roll. So it's
Huh.
basically a clamshell bun, which you then can open up and fill with a variety of stuffings on the go. Very, very popular. And these are these Taiwanese buns. I just absolutely so versatile. For sweet, they can be just steamed, put on the griddle, and filled with all kinds of things. It's just like a 2 or 3 bite affair.
Mm.
And they're just a
Okay.
perfect little thing for all kinds of stuffing. Um, if we now talk about the pre-stuffed, what's known in Chinese language as the baozi, these are the traditional Chinese buns, which are basically filled before steaming, where a raw dough is rolled, and then traditionally with a mixture of pork, um, of pork and cabbage. But then they have the chashao bao, which are filled with a chashao roe, which is known as char siu in America. um, Very popular. I've had them in Singapore filled with like a beef curry and eggs.
Mm.
And they differentiate between, they call it the small bun, which is like a 3 bite affair, and the big bun where you really gotta sit down for, otherwise the whole thing falls apart. But that's certainly the baozi. They are phenomenal. And when I was also in Singapore and in Malaysia, what I really like is the popia, which is basically a freshly made spring roll. It has its origins on a like a social way of eating where you would sit at home and you provide the wrappers. It's similar to a spring roll wrapper or like a North African brick pastry, actually, the very thin, sturdy crab. And you provide those in a variety of stuffings, and all your guests basically roll their own spring roll. and eat them just like this without frying. So
Hmm.
it's kind of a spin on the Vietnamese summer rolls, just different stuffings. And now you find all over Singapore, you find popiah stands where you have somebody behind the counter and he said, I like some of these the crispy Chinese sausage, the sautéed radishes. I take some of the roasted peanuts and they roll them up and they're very sturdy and on the go, and you have a nice, quick, healthy bite. And inherently, thinking about Asian cuisine, they are very vegetable forward. The meat is just more like a flavoring, and that's something we should go for.
Yeah, I could actually see a product developer creating frozen versions of those where in, one package you get six different popias with six different fillings, just like a variety
Yes,
pack.
either
And
that or as meal kits. Think about salad
that,
kits, how popular they have become.
oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. And jumping to Malaysia, it tells me, when we think of Asia, it's easy to forget how big and diverse it is. I remember some of the best part of India when I was traveling through India was the street food,
Oh yes,
the stuff off the carts. So,
yes,
speaking of Indian street food, I mean, I know we've got samosas. What else can
yeah,
you
yeah. I
tell us
mean,
about?
samosa is probably the best known. You find something comparable. I find it interesting from India. If you go to Central Asia, call them sambusas. You go further west into the Middle East, they call them, in Turkey, call them börek. And
Yeah.
it's fundamentally the same thing. It's their version of an empanada, if you will, and they're filled with a variety of stuffing. But the samosa, traditional samosa, filled with a mixture of cooked potatoes, commonly some peas in there, chilies, lots of spices, and very aromatic, and then oftentimes served with some form of a chutney, if you want to call it that way. Understanding that chutney is not just a mango jam. There's so many different varieties out there. What I find more interesting though is if you talk about the Indian aloo masala toast, which is a very popular. I had this so many times that I was in India, and it's just a simple white bread with a stuffing similar to the samosa. I think aloo stands for potatoes and masala
Right.
spice, so stuffed with spiced potatoes, and you can almost say it's two slices of white bread stuffed with a potato mixture and then cooked on a griddle or even like in a traditional sandwich maker where the sides are squeezed shut and
Ah,
then cooked till it's heated through. A phenomenal thing. So you can almost think of like a panini press, but it
yeah. That's
pinches
where I was
the
going in my head.
and pinches
Yeah.
the side shut,
Indian
and you
style.
have this
So.
tender crunch, where samosa is more like a brittle crunch.
Right, right.
Right? So most
Flaky.
of all like a pastry kind of brittle crunch, whereas now the white bread gives you a tender, slightly chewy crunch, and I found that very pleasant to eat. Also easier to eat because you're running less of a risk for the whole thing brittling apart. And
Exactly,
if
exactly.
you think about all the kati roll, the roasted kebab, I mean, these
Yes.
cuisines from India all the way via Central Asia, Middle East, North Africa, they're famous for their kebabs, meat on a
Yep.
stick, where it's
Yep.
cooked. I mean, like an inch or
Goes
two
back a couple
away.
million years.
Yeah, but they're
Meat on
cooked
a
an
stick.
inch or two away over the charcoal, and then basically taken off the skewer in a flatbread. And many cultures have something like this. Think about
Right.
the kefta
Greek.
kebab in a naan-like flatbread in a paratha, and you just have basically your little handheld meat meat one. So I really enjoy this, and that brings again Middle Eastern cuisine so much trending. Think about the stuffed pitas, and I can't say enough about doner kebab.
Oh
In
yeah.
my in
Well, doner
in my
kebab
native
is
Germany,
everywhere. Yeah.
yeah, doner kebab is the most popular street food. It
When I
is
was living in
surpassed.
Germany, yeah,
Yeah,
I think you and I talked about this once because when I was living in Germany, there was a doner kebab stand on every corner,
yes.
and there were Germans who thought that it was German food, not
Oh
Turkish
yeah.
food.
I remember when I was living in China, and I had been there maybe a year, and I spoke Chinese just a little bit, and let alone reading. But I saw this doner kebab stand, and under there is my by that time girlfriend, now wife, and I asked her, said, does it say German specialty there? Yeah, it's a German specialty. Cool.
Yes.
Yeah, not really, but yeah,
Yeah.
it is surpassed bratwurst many years ago. That's a really cool handheld. And if you uh, look at other cultures, doner kebab, gyros, shawarma, it's the
Mm.
same thing. It's the same
Mm.
thing. And I remember when I was in Vietnam and I had this basically a chicken shawarma served in a banh
Yeah.
mi. And I
Well, in
loved it. That was,
Israel, Israel, they do chicken, turkey. You see more of a turkey shawarma than you do lamb, it
yeah.
seems. And then since we're talking stuffed pitas, can't forget falafel. And I've
Oh,
noticed that
yes. Oh,
falafel
yes.
is trending back up. And the funny thing is, my son is crazy about the frozen falafel that you can get at Trader Joe's. And, it's just, pop in the Ninja, heat it up, pop it in a pita, dress it, you're
Yes,
done.
especially the pre-made falafel are
Hmm.
very convenient. Let's face it. To make your own falafel, it takes some planning. You gotta soak the chickpeas, you gotta grind the chickpeas, you gotta fry them, and then so now this way, and that's something I talked to the military about yeah, embracing falafel as I wouldn't call it as a meat replacement, but to make the food more plant forward. And then
Yeah, well, it's
if
high
they
protein,
yeah,
chickpeas,
and if they
and
then buy the pre-made falafel, they're commonly frozen, they're pre-fried, so they can then sell them as baked falafel. If you make a
exactly.
fresh falafel and you bake it, it's not good. It needs to be
No,
hidden
it's got a
oil for
different
a while.
texture. Yeah, you got to have
Yes.
that. But frying it in a clean oil, a healthy oil, a high oleic
Oh yes.
oil, you've got the health component there. Falafel is healthy. Now, granted, nothing is ever going to match falafel Golani in Afula, Israel. I When I was living there in the 70s, it was the place to go,
Oh yes.
and spent 20 years bragging about it. And then I read in Food and Wine in the 90s, they declared it
Mhm.
the best falafel in the world. And those of us who had been, we already knew that. And then
Mhm.
it was fun. I took my daughter there. When was that? 10 years ago for her 18th
Yeah.
birthday. I took her to, it'll be 10 years next month. Took her to Falafel Galani. Still going on, still the best falafel in the world to me, so. But
Nice.
yeah, there's the Middle East has had a great handheld tradition. But you're in San Antonio, and we talked about
Mhm.
the street food culture there. Tell me what you're seeing trending up on home ground, as it were.
That's a very good question. Now, I have to say, San Antonio is known for the Tex-Mex cuisine. I want a little disclaimer here. Tex-Mex is often looked down upon as a bastardization of Mexican cuisine. I couldn't agree less with this. Tex-Mex is its own thing. It's its own thing. Just
Absolutely.
if we can compare it, let's say Singaporean cuisine can be viewed as a bastardization of Chinese, Indian, or Malaysian cuisine. It's not. It's its own thing. And there's good players and there's bad players out there. And so talking about the tacos, they continue to go strong. Maybe not so much as a street food thing because it's just too hot to eat outside here. So, but yeah, as a grab and go and
Excuse.
food to go. So if you go somewhere, you meet with the people, somebody will bring tacos for breakfast.
It
That's,
is a big breakfast grab and go, at least up
oh
there in
yes.
Austin. I don't know about San
So now
Antonio.
talking about
Yeah.
burritos,
Hmm.
much more complex. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
They're much more substantive. You will eat only one, whereas tacos three or four easily, right?
Yeah.
The deep fried version chimichangas, they are
Hmm.
really sturdy. They are holding up really well. But if you know not only Mexican cuisine, if you go further south, think about South American cuisine, Central American cuisine. We talk empanadas, the whole Hispanic cuisine from Mexico down to Chile. They're known for empanadas. Think about arepas found from Guatemala southwards. So, and these empanadas and arepas, even tamales, have become very popular, where they really
Yes.
transition from street cart into supermarket frozen section. because they are
Yes.
very convenient. I catch myself often enough to buy some from the supermarket, and I have my favorites there, and they're just very convenient. You hold them in the freezer. If you buy them fresh, you got to eat them within a day or two. Otherwise, they're really not nice anymore. But no, that has grown a lot.
Freeze, yeah. So, I think the possibilities and the popularity of handheld foods are absolutely unlimited enough, and we can safely bet that we can be seeing all of those and more, in the future. So,
Oh yes.
that's my take on it.
Oh yeah, I agree. And but think about what we can do with burgers. And also here, the military is working a lot again to get the health food aspect. And we made some experiments that we can incorporate up to 20% of non-beef, and the customer wouldn't notice, such as black bean purees, mushrooms, more vegetables mixed in to get a more healthful aspect. But think about hot dogs.
You're right. Burgers are going upscale. Hot dogs are even going upscale.
Oh yes.
It's pretty
But what,
fascinating.
what matters most is still that the burger itself needs to be of substance. If you have a low quality burger, even a slab of
Oh yeah,
foie gras and truffles and some braised shortgives won't change that.
yeah. Now I
But yeah, there's
don't think.
there's a different
Yeah.
value perception of the customers when it comes to these kind of foods.
Here's,
And
I
I
was about to
appreciate that a
say that I
lot.
don't. I was about to say that I don't think an upscale burger would translate well to a prepared food item that you
Good
could
point.
get. So no, we might be underselling the capabilities of our, food product designers and developers because, I think, take something as simple as using Wagyu beef, real
Hmm.
Wagyu. There's a lot of fake
Yeah,
Wagyu out there, but the real
yeah.
deal, I think that, that actually could be something that would appeal to, granted a certain segment of consumers, but, that
Oh yeah,
I
it's
think it's a
still a niche
possibility.
market. It's still a niche in some form,
Yeah.
but I would say, I mean, we can expand in all directions. It can be a seafood burger, it can be a vegetable burger. I personally feel why not highlight for what it actually is? Make it a
Yeah.
cool shrimp hot dog. And there are some really good things we can do also with not really the highest amount of cost and make them good.
You're talking about a shrimp hot dog, but there actually is out on the market. Secret Island makes Chilean salmon hot dogs that are just amazing. They really are, delicious. And it's an interesting blend of an analog and a substitute, if you know what I
Yes,
mean.
I can see
You
that.
know you're eating salmon, but it still has that smoky, sausagey flavor that you want from a hot dog. And they do salmon burgers as well. But
Yeah.
you're on point with that.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, I'm often inspired if you think about, especially Southeast Asia, all the shrimp cake, the shrimp
mhm.
patties, that this phenomenal chew on there. And in my classes, when we talk about force meat, sausage making, my students realize very quick that it's very easy to make a good shrimp force meat, and they are very hard to mess up compared to all the other traditional force meats, and they just lend themselves so nicely to make a nice sausage, a nice patty. They give you this very pleasant chew, this feeling of satisfaction when you bite through the soft bun and hit the kind of little bounce on the either the sausage link in a hot dog or the patty in a burger. Think about all the
Right.
uh, famous Japanese fish cakes and all these things, the shrimp balls, you find them in Southeast Asian cuisine. So there's a lot of potential.
There is, something we didn't mention, jumping, since we've jumped back into Southeast Asia,
Yeah.
we completely went over Thailand, and Thailand has a great, I don't know if you'd call it handheld, but I'm thinking of their corn cakes. And I've had,
Yes.
both seafood versions and vegetarian versions.
Oh, absolutely.
And those are, just a wonderful combination of flavors and textures that would translate very well to a frozen item. Now,
Thai corn
granted,
cakes for sure. Or
Yeah.
think about the Korean pancakes, the Korean scallion pancakes, which is basically
Mhm.
a lot of vegetable, some beef, and or seafood held together with a very small amount of batter. And the corn cakes
Right.
are just the Southeast Asian counterpart. Or for the frozen food aisle, I can see them because it's just almost every household or many households have either a toaster oven with an air fryer function or an air fryer itself. And they just pop in the air fryer, put something on top, have a nice dipping sauce or dressing, which can be marketed separately, though the potential is limitless there.
Yeah, it deviates a little from handheld, because there's nothing to put it in, but you could, put it into some kind of thin pastry shell and have it, just
You
really
can you
nice.
can you can design those to be the wrapper and or the bun. Put
Oh,
something in there.
yeah. Oh, man.
So the
So,
Korean pancake and handle is relatively flexible, so you
yes,
can actually make it almost like a pita pocket or taco, if you will.
right,
And
right,
it
right,
can be
right.
designed this way. Or if we think about the Thai cake, which is more sturdy, but something
Hmm.
between two slices of the Thai corn cake.
Man, yeah.
So you you
So,
you got my juices going. Actually, I'm getting ready for our graduation, which my class will cater. So you get my juices flowing
okay.
here.
I'm telling you, and it's we're out of time completely, and yet when you and I get going, two old chefs, man, we get going. But that's what I love about having you on because it gets the creative juices flowing,
It does, that's for
as
sure.
well as the taste buds, So
Hmm.
thank you again, Hinnerk, for coming along, sharing your insights into this, grab and go ethnic merger culinary trends. And I want to thank our audience as well because without y'all we wouldn't be here. I
I
hope
agree. Thank
they
you.
and I hope for our audience that we help you get a good handle on these one-fisted favorites. You'll find a lot more on culinary trends, including more videos and articles from Chef Hinner, and it's all right here at preparedfoods.com. Again, I'm David Fetter, Executive Editor Technical for the Prepared Foods Network, and this was a talk with Professor Hinnerk Von Bargen of the Culinary Institute of America, San Antonio. Until next time.